Gentlemen, your value does not end at how much work you do. It's very easy to fall into a trap when you're getting better at things and working towards goals of feeling as though your entire entity is dependent and placed on how much work you do and how much you get through. How many hours you spend on your business, how many hours you spend in the gym. And the great difficulty with this is, to a partial extent, your value is dependent on how much work you do. The better you become as a person in terms of education or physical ability or progress in a financial endeavour, the more value you place into society. You become a more attractive prospect. But in actual fact, we can't rely on this as our measure of worth. Our true measure of worth as a person cannot be how many hours did I do X, Y, and Z, because this completely flies in the face of what it means to actually be a good person. I think self-improvement doesn't touch on the value and the importance of actually being kind, of being someone who makes the world a better place. It doesn't at any point seem to make a point of the fact that if you make this world a better place because you're polite and you're kind and you take time to listen to someone's conversation, that is as valuable and as integral a thing as any amount of work that you do. Ultimately, the real purpose of improving is to improve as a person, not just to become better and better at output. It's not about being more and more able to do more and more work. It's about becoming a more and more positive influence on the world that you find yourself in. I think it's very easy to fall into a trap of feeling like your value is entirely dependent on the work that you do. And the reason that I made this video is because it's exactly the way that I feel almost every day. I've noticed myself progressively getting more and more entangled in this how much work have you done today and how good do you feel as a result of doing it sort of ratio. And I noticed that it's actually making me a less kind, compassionate person. It's making me more of the things that I don't want to be. I notice it's inflating my ego, and it's making me more dependent on other people as my source of value. I think between actually feeling as though you can go, oh, look how much work I've done, hence value, and also deriving that feeling of going, oh, look how much work I've done, I'm obviously of value, other people value me. I think we can get stuck in these two kind of parameters here, where we're working towards something which makes us want to kind of voice that value, and in doing so we're actually outsourcing our value to other people. We're not taking it from ourselves anymore. And as I say, I have noticed recently that my conversation has become more and more caveat with, you know, I'll use an example of something, and it will involve the fact that I'd watched something on TV, and I'll be hesitant to say, oh, I was watching TV and I saw X, Y, and Z. I'll say something more along the lines of, whilst I was working towards insert impressive sounding subject, I saw this. And I realised that this is something a lot of people do. A lot of people find it very difficult to actually just switch off from work, switch off from looking impressive. I think there's a very correlative relationship between output and creating something and the desire to let people know. And it's very important that we establish here that this is not a relationship you want to continue with. As I say, I make all of these videos because essentially it's things that I notice in myself that I think someone else out there will feel the same way. And I notice that I feel less and less of myself when I do more and more work, which is very strange. Is the whole reason why I work towards things, and why you will work towards things if this appeals to you, is because you want to feel better. You want to feel more valuable. You want to feel like you're just you're creating something, you're making something good for yourself. But in the process, we can get so entwined and infatuated with this process of looking impressive, looking like we're doing a lot of work, being a part of the hustle culture, so much so that we lose touch with what it actually means to be someone of value. What it actually means to be someone of value is to be someone who makes the world a better place. Now, of course, if you work on yourself and you're working towards goals that make you happy, I am of firm mind that the more you feel good about the things that you're doing, the more likely you are to do good for other people. Kind of taking care of your side of the street makes you more able to take care of the other side of the street, if that makes sense. And I agree with this, but also we need to detach from this sense that we are only a product of our product. It's simply not the case. Now, I don't have much more of a through point with this. I just think it's important to know that we don't finish at our work. Our work is not all that we are. And it's so easy to feel as though this is the case because it makes perfect sense. When you work towards something, it gets better. So in the feeling, in that understanding, we can look and go, oh, well, if I'm working towards myself, then I'm getting better. And if we're getting better, we all of a sudden can very quickly develop a necessity to make people know that we're working well and to make it known that we're someone who works well. This also comes across in our own private life of not when no one is watching, that we can very easily find it difficult just to rest, difficult to not do anything that doesn't constitute work because we feel like we should constantly be upping that value and working towards something. It's very important that we create an understanding in ourselves that our work does produce value. It is valuable to create something, to get better, to work towards a goal. Of course it is, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not where the line is drawn and where the world ends for us. In actual fact, if you spend your days as someone who says hello to people, or is polite to the bus driver, or picks up rubbish as you walk down the street, or just is generally, when you're in conversation with your friends or with your family, someone who is a pleasant person to be around. If you're someone who is well-mannered, kind, considerate, and takes the time to actually look at themselves and think about whether what they're doing is right, then you are much further along the self-improvement journey, trajectory, than you think you might be. And the reason I say this is because we can completely lose sight of that. We can completely lose touch with the fact that if we're a good person, then we're doing the right thing. We can totally invest ourselves in our work to the point where we forget that what is truly important in this world is to be a good influence. And to be a good influence, you have to spend some time knowing that it's not just about work. And a prevalent theme that I found myself really making an effort to avoid, and something I know other people do, is you get that value attached to your work so much so that you can push out things that are more important than work. I will die on this hill. It will be something that I consistently say to you is work's important. You have to make time to create your product and develop yourself and work in, do the thing that speaks to you. But equally well, if it's at the expense of going out for a coffee with your mum or spending the night with your brother or going out for a family dinner, it's not worth it. It's honestly not worth it. There are some things in this life that are finite resources and finite luxuries that we simply cannot let work take over. And when our value becomes too closely entwined and attached to our output, we can very easily lose sight of what it is to enjoy life and what is truly the important factors of this world. I cannot stress enough that there are a few things that are more important than being kind, being respectful, being present with your friends, being present with your family, appreciating people, letting people know that you appreciate them. These are things that are never really spoken about as signs of improvement, when in actual fact, the person who has his house in order to the point where he can be a genuinely bright influence in the world is someone who is the definition of improved, the real meaning of improvement and the meaning of being good. The whole point of why we do any of this improvement stuff is to feel good, and we can't feel good in ourselves if the world around us is in disarray. We are creatures who enjoy each other. We enjoy being around each other, and in that process, we can't be so infatuated with our work to the point where we just don't care about anything but that. We can't do it. The point I'd like to make and round out this video with is just don't divulge and descend into this feeling where all you can do for this world is work, because it doesn't work, ironically. It's not the right thing to do. It's very important, of course, that you have something that you work towards. You have a passion, you have a focus, you have a drive. Of course, this is important. But you must remember that if, for whatever reason, today you just don't do the work, you don't get the output because you might be ill, or you might have family to see, which you should, or you might have... It might just be one of those days. You might just be tired that you've been doing too much work. It's so important that we don't get tied up in our value and work, being one in the same, where we can't even feel good about ourselves if we take a day off. Chris Williamson is someone who is really fantastic for this. If you don't know Chris Williamson, please go and watch him. He's fantastic. We can get to the point where we've worked so much and we're so infatuated with getting shit done that when we don't do things, we immediately feel lazy. And we also we don't even rest for the sake of resting. We rest for the sake of potentially coming back with more vigour and more vitality to continue working. The work spiral is real. We really can get so involved in trying to improve that we just lose sight of today. It's almost as though we're living for tomorrow, but once tomorrow comes, we're simply living for the next day. We don't actually take the time to enjoy the world that we have. And to round this video out with a classically stoner, psychedelic, hippie sort of comment, we only have today. Today is all that we have. And if you spend every single day waiting for tomorrow, waiting for that product that comes as a result of you putting in X amount of hours on your project, you're not going to really grasp the concept of what this world has to offer. This world is a place of love, and this is somewhere that can be infinitely enjoyed so long as we allow that presence in our world. Be good, be kind, work towards something that you feel passionate about, but don't let it overtake you. See you later, gents.